All right, good evening once again. Glad to see you and welcome to the Central Library. Raise your hand if you've been here before. I always ask to see if we have any newcomers. And so if you haven't been here before, raise your hand. Have not? Wonderful, wonderful. So welcome to the Central Library. This is the headquarters for the Fulton County Library System, and we're so glad you're here. Please take a moment, look at our website, come back another time, get a library card, check out the books, and see what our next wonderful program might be. Well, this evening I want to take a minute to acknowledge a few people, and I'll begin with our Executive Director, Ms. Gail Holloman. And I didn't say I'm Cheryl Small, Deputy Director over Youth Services and Community Engagement for the Library System. We also want to acknowledge the Library Foundation. I'm not sure if we have a representative here or not. If you are, all right. We have somebody, Rick? Wonderful. The Library Foundation, do you have a book in your hand? If you have a book that you received when you came through that door and it was free of charge, raise it high. Wonderful. Those books were sponsored and paid for by the Library Foundation. And I also want to acknowledge the bookstore that we work with, Brave and Kind, and their representatives, Bunny Hilliard, the owner. I don't know if she's in here, but if there's anybody from Brave and Kind, raise your hand. I think they're all outside, you all. And of course, we want to acknowledge Fulton County Board of Commissioners and the Library Board of Trustees. So without further ado, I'll begin with our moderator. This is in conversation with Rose Scott. Rose Scott is an award-winning journalist and host of Closer Look on Atlanta's NPR station, WABE, known for its in-depth conversation on community issues and public policy. Ms. Rose Scott, there she is. Give her a hand, you all. Thank you. I think they're going to come out together. And of course, this evening, you are here to see Deborah Roberts. Not sure if you know it or not, but Deborah Roberts was born in Perry, Georgia. She's Georgia's own. She's an award-winning broadcast journalist and one of the most prominent black women in the field. A University of Georgia graduate with a BA in journalism, Roberts began her career at WTVM-TV in Columbus, Georgia, and later worked for NBC News before joining ABC's 2020 as correspondent. Known for her in-depth reporting on global and social issues, she has earned accolades, including a Sports Emmy and the Clarion Award. Roberts is married to NBC weatherman Al Roker and lives in New York City. Can you believe Deborah Roberts is in the Central Library in downtown Atlanta? Please give her a warm welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hi. Hi, everybody. Hello, Georgia. Hey, feels good. Feels good to be home.
Now look, they don't clap like that for me, and I live here. I've been here for 30 years. Oh, this is Rose. And see at the grocery store.
Well, you don't
That's
greet
just
them in the
Rose.
same way that I just did, probably. Maybe that's.
Welcome. Happy Black History Month. No matter what else anybody else says, it is Black History Month. Quick question. I like to always get the audience involved. Raise your hand if you have sisters or a sister that you just adore.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
A lot.
You raise your hand right here. Tell
Well,
me
you
one
said
word.
adore.
Yeah,
Maybe
adore.
they might have a problem with adoration.
Tell me one word to describe your sister. Remarkable.
Wow.
Okay. And I know you too, Aisha. Give me another word besides remarkable. Fabulous. Smart. Kind. Loving. Supportive. All right. How many sisters owe you money? Deborah Roberts, those descriptors are not lost on you when it comes
Not
to
at
your
all.
sisters?
You know, I have to say, and I started off the book by saying I kind of hit the sister lottery, although I thought I did until I met you. I came from a large family of 9 kids. You came from a large family. I grew up with 6 sisters in the house, right? 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
1 bathroom. Can you imagine that? Running and trying to get in front and get inside before somebody else did. But we run the gamut. And my baby sister, I think, might be here, or she's coming tonight. But, you know, 5 years younger than I am. My oldest sister was 18 years or so, maybe older. And they all just had different personalities and different vibes, and the dynamic was so different. But I would say, if I had to describe them all, now some we had different little ups and downs over the years, you know how that goes. But when you all talked about fabulous and kind and dynamic, and you know, all of those describe different versions of my relationships with my sisters.
Now, when it came time to pressing hair, because I know your mama pressed hair.
You know, Saturday morning.
Right.
Saturday morning.
Did she just have y'all line up and just?
Kind of, until Miss Christine entered the picture, and then we started, one of us went to Miss Christine to get my hair done. But yes, she had us all lined up, and Saturday morning was hair pressing day.
You
Hadn't thought about that in a long time.
I know. Well, listen, I got scars. I'm sure some of y'all do too. Let me tell you something. The rite of passage for a black girl is when you get that first burn with that hot comb, and then what does your mama say? I told you not to move. So then you like this.
That's true. That's really true.
When I think about lessons learned and cherished, the teacher who changed my life, it feels like writing about sisterhood was a natural next for you.
Right. Well, Lessons Learned and Cherished was the very first book about teachers. And you're absolutely right. That was born of my thoughts, and just over the years, I talked a lot about teachers in my life. My particular teacher, Mrs. Dorothy Hardy, an English teacher who had such an impact. So when I finished that book and started thinking, what else might I write about? And you know, a lot of authors will say, write about what you know. And I started thinking, you know, other things that intrigue me. And of course, family is something that has been very important in my life. And I thought siblings, that's something I know a lot about. And I initially thought I would write about siblings, the sibling connection. And that's so broad, you know, brothers and sisters have different connections, brothers and brothers have different connections, and sisters. So we decided, I know a lot about sisters. Let's talk about sisters. And what was most interesting to me is I discovered what I think might be present in the lives of a lot of people. My sisters and I have sort of like drifted. The relationships have evolved over the years. My sister Janet and I were really tight when I was in high school and then in college, and so close. And then we sort of drifted, but then we were close again, but then another sister, maybe not as close, my sister Tina and I. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just not a good sister, and you know, I live up in New York, and I travel a lot, and maybe other people are so much closer, what's wrong? And I discovered the same was true for other people. Your relationships cycle in and out, and they evolve, and I thought this would be a great topic to explore, because you know, the journalist in me, I love to check it out.
And when you are the journalist in the family, everyone thinks, as soon as you say, I'm going to write a book,
Oh.
I just lovingly and gently said, I might write a book about our family, and I got.
Oh, yeah, the side eye.
Did you share this concept with your sisters?
I did, because I thought there's no way I can write about it and really talk honestly about sisterhood without exploring and talking to my own sisters. Because the concept that I really liked, and I worked so well in the first book, was to interview people about their relationships. So I thought, I want to interview a lot of people about their sisters. Well, I got to start right at home. So I reached out to my sisters, Belinda, Benita, Janet, Tina, and I was like, what do you guys think? And crickets. Belinda was like, what, are we trying to spill family tea? What's going on? Are you trying to tell somebody what you really thought about them and you finally put it in a book? No. I said, this is not about embarrassment. This is not about trying to highlight anything that would put anybody on the spot, but just an opportunity for us to explore. Let's explore our childhood. Let's explore who and where we are right now. One of my sisters, I have 2 sisters who are cancer, one is a cancer survivor who's in the throes of chemo right now, and another one who's a thriver who has survived breast cancer. And this sister who's dealing with it right now was just finishing up her chemo treatments. And from all afar, we are in Florida and New York and Texas and 2 in Georgia. So we would all check in on her, and one of us got the idea, like, let's go and celebrate her. Let's go to Atlanta and celebrate her. Let's bring some sisterhood to her. And that was sort of really where I thought about it, the sisterhood, because when we got back together, all those issues, anything, it just fell away. We just connected.
Was this the first conversation for the book with your own sisters?
The first conversation for the, well, actually, I probably talked to one or two other people just because of timing, but my sisters were the beginning. They were the foundation.
Did you set any parameters like, don't bring up that I still
No.
ruined your sweater?
No, I actually didn't. What I did was I Zoomed with everybody because it was just so much easier to get schedules together. And with 4, I didn't want to interview all 4 of them at one time because then we start talking over each other and then somebody doesn't get a word in edgewise. And so I did 2 and 2. And there were no parameters.
Yeah.
It was all about, the first question I would ask everybody was, tell me your earliest memories of having or being a sister and what comes to mind for you. And people would bring up all kinds of things. Like I remember, you came home from the hospital and I said to my mom 2 weeks later, when is she going back? I wanted to throw her in the garbage. Or I prayed for a sister and I couldn't believe I finally got one. Or I remember the time I pushed my sister off, up the front steps and, she,
Deborah.
Not me.
Oh, okay.
No. Other people would share these stories. That was not me. But these kinds of things would come up, and all of a sudden, these women would start going down memory lane.
Yeah.
And there was like something that came over them, and there were tears. There were some who actually, happy tears, and then sometimes there were tears of sadness, and I remember we never talked about. So there were a lot of different complexities that came to the forefront, and I so found that interesting.
You have the luxury as Deborah Roberts, because you're a well-respected journalist and a friend. You can call Viola Davis, and you can call certain people. I can call Viola Davis. She didn't return my phone call.
She didn't return mine right away.
Right. Maybe Octavia Spencer, because I've interviewed her before. But you wanted to make sure that these sisters were of different cultures, heritage, and generations.
Correct.
And the twins, too.
Twins. Well, I have an assistant who's a twin, and she talked to me a little bit about the twin dynamic. And Michael Strahan, my colleague, has twin daughters, and some of you may know that one of the daughters, Isabella, was going through cancer treatments. She had a brain tumor, and that dynamic was really fascinating. So that became something else. But what I really wanted to do, in the first book, I really sort of highlighted celebrities because I thought people might want to know how Spike Lee got to be Spike Lee and how Sergio Hudson, the designer, got to be Sergio Hudson and what inspired all of them. And Octavia Spencer is also in the first book. But I wanted to make sure this time, not only were there a few bold-faced names, because publishers like bold-faced names on the cover, people that you might recognize. One of my sisters, Janet, by the way, wanted to know, like, is my name going to be on the cover along with all the other big-name celebrities? So, Janet, you're in the book. Settle down. You're in the book. But I wanted just some average, normal people to be in there, from a pair of young sisters who were like 10 and 12, who I just read about in New Jersey, and I DM'd them, and they said they wanted to do it, who, they both work on making hospital gowns for little children, a charitable thing. But I thought hearing from young kids might be interesting. Twins would be interesting because the twin dynamic is very, very interesting.
And then the older set of the sisters, was it Mary and Martha?
Yes, exactly, Blanding, and they're twins as well. So, but the twins talked about, now, sisters can be very closely connected, and don't get me wrong, there are plenty of sisters who have their bumps, don't necessarily all get along. I have people who said, if she wasn't my sister, I would not be friends with her. I had people who said things like that. But twins, particularly identical twins, talked about feeling each other's pain. When I was pained when they split us up in school and put us in different classes. That was the only person who understood me. Nobody gets you like your womb mate. The person who came into this world with you was your womb mate. So they had a very different description of their relationship, which was so fascinating. They call it cryptophagia, when they're in the crib and they're babbling, and what are they talking about? They have their own language. They actually do.
How many submissions did you want, and did you realize maybe I'm just going to add a little bit more? Because there are a lot of stories in here.
I knew that we needed probably at the very least 40, 50. And so when I started reaching, and interestingly, you might know that I have an Instagram Live sort of chat show that I do where I just sort of interview people on Instagram Live, people who intrigue me. And I will just DM people sometimes and say, oh my gosh, I read about this or that, and would you do it? And I was surprised how often people would DM back and say, wow, I would love to, and I'm impressed. So oftentimes I would read about somebody and I would email or DM them, certainly people that I knew, colleagues of mine, Robin Roberts, whom I've known forever, and I've interviewed Robin, she was in the very first book. I wanted to talk to her sisters, Dorothy and Sally Ann.
Yeah.
And here, funny story. So I asked Robin what she thought, you know, work together, well, and I don't want to offend her or anything like that. I'm like, well, Robin, what do you think? Should I just talk to Sally Ann or Dorothy? She's, I don't know, maybe both of them. And I said, okay, I just want to hear their story. I know your story. I want to hear their story. So we set it up, and you know, everybody, for the most part, I don't know that I had anybody who outright rejected. Almost everybody was sort of intrigued by the concept because they knew it wasn't about, you know, airing dirty laundry. They knew it was about exploring a relationship. So I reached out to Sally Ann and Dorothy, and they said, great, great, great. Sally Ann lives in New Orleans. Dorothy lives in Mississippi. So they got together to talk. So I thought, oh, great. So the day I set up for the Zoom, I'm getting ready to talk to them. And who's in the background but Robin? And I'm like, what are you doing here? Robin wanted to make sure nothing was going to be said that she didn't know about. It was hilarious. But what was also beautiful about it was she really demonstrated one of the things that I found in sisters, too, particularly sisters who are close. And they talked about, over the years, bumps they had. But Robin really amplified Sally Ann. Sally Ann was sort of, you know, dimming her light a little bit. Hey, Pam. Oh, my gosh, I see somebody out here I know, an author. Robin, I was talking about Robin's stem cell transplant, and Sally Ann obviously saved her life because she donated her stem cell. And Sally Ann was saying, well, you know, and people should do that, and I was blessed to do it, and hum, 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 hum. Robin jumped in and said, no, 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 wait a second. You told me you were born to do this. You were born to save my life. You tell Deborah that. But she didn't want her sister to sort of dim her light. Step out there and enjoy. And I thought that was really beautiful. Only a really good sister would do that.
How long were the Zoom sessions? I'm curious.
I promised everybody they would be 25 minutes. And for the most part they were, but sometimes I couldn't shut people up. They just talked and talked and talked.
Did everyone get the same questions?
Mostly. I would always start off asking them about childhood, and I would ask each one of them to, in a word or two, what does sisterhood mean to you? Or describe your sister, what it is to have a sister in your life. And Octavia Spencer said, it's like having a pride of lionesses at your back.
Yeah.
Someone else said, it's like having a soft place to land. Somebody said, it's like having a built-in best friend. Somebody said, it's like, you know, your fiercest critic, but also, you know, your best protector, you know, those kinds of things. So they had all kinds of descriptions of each other.
Were there sisters who had maybe been apart for a long time or maybe not even spoken to each other for a while, and this was kind of a cathartic
a
for them as
unifying
well?
thing? Yeah, I think that there were some who had struggles, maybe not completely estranged, but didn't really speak to each other as much as they should. We all have busy lives. You grow up, you know, you have children, you have families, you sometimes live in different cities, and you just sort of drifted apart. And I did have sisters who felt that they sort of reconnected a little bit. You know, they wound up, how often do you sit around talking with family members about that time when this happened, other than just at family reunions when they're funny stories, but how often do you really talk about the essence of who you are, how I feel about you, or what you have done for me, or how I've got your back, even though I don't always agree with you and you kind of tick me off a lot, but I've got your back if something happens.
Did you have those moments where one sister might have said, I never knew that?
Yes, I had that. I had sisters who said, I've never heard you say that before. One sister who was going through cancer treatments, and she said, my sister is just my hero. She's always done this, that, whatever. And she would turn and look at, I've never heard you describe me that way before. Or another said, she came to my, oftentimes people would reveal stories that they didn't even remember. And they'd say, oh, I didn't know that that was what you felt. My youngest sister, and I don't know if she's here, Belinda, is she here yet? She's on her way. She lives in the Atlanta area. But, and this is in the book, so I'm not revealing anything that she wouldn't know. But when we were talking, Belinda and I, over the years, we've had our little ups and downs, and my sister, you know, another one, we've had our little bumps here and there. And when we were talking, Belinda said to me, you know, when I think back on it in childhood, I sort of kind of felt like Mom preferred you a little more. And I thought, wow, And she said, but that was me as a kid. I probably felt a certain level of jealousy. Of course, as I grew up, and now that I'm a mom, and now that I have children, I recognize how complex relationships can be with different children. She said, but as a child, I do remember that. And that informed me because I didn't realize she had certain perceptions of me, and of course, I had certain perceptions of her. And so it kind of peeled away layers, I think, for a lot of us, my sisters, but others, to talk about what they felt, and I never knew that that was what you were going through at the time.
How did you respond, Deborah?
I said, good question. Well, you're
That's
good.
what I do.
You're tough. You're good. Wow. Wow.
She don't know, do she?
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that you were really that kind of a journalist, that you're going to get me going emotionally. I said to her, I was really surprised. I didn't know that you felt that way. I said, I didn't think she did. And I also said, you know, many of you know colorism. Colorism is a big thing in the Black community, and I was the darker-skinned sister in the family. And I think my mom knew that I had certain insecurities when I was growing up, so she probably gave me a little dollop of extra, you know, affection and emotion from time to time because of that. Well, Belinda didn't know that that was something I struggled with. Another one of my sisters said, I was so painfully shy. There's Belinda, my baby sister. There she is. Hi, Patrick. Calling you out, calling you out. My sister Benita, I always knew was a little shy. And I used to get so upset when Mom would take pictures and she was in the picture with us because she was always like hiding and shirking from the camera and looking weird. I was like, I don't want her in a picture with me. Oh, what is with her? One sock was up and one was down. And she said, I was so painfully shy. I just wanted to just sink into the wall. Well, Benita has what we now know to be anxiety. I didn't know that when I was growing up. So there were revelations for all of us, I think, about how we came into the world, how we coexisted as sisters. And to me, it really sort of created a new level of empathy toward my sisters, understanding, and a deeper level of love.
Is there something you want to say to Belinda right here now?
Oh my God.
I got your back, Belinda.
Yes,
I
you are
got
facilitating. Yeah. Well, I think I've already said to her, we've talked a little bit about how much I appreciate her, but also how much I feel like we have come to talk, to understand each other a little bit more. Me understanding her a little bit more in her life, and for me, hopefully her to understand me. But I think I cherish her in a way probably even more now than I ever did. So
that's great.
There you go.
We're going to get to some questions and comments in just a moment, but I do want to end with this in terms of our conversation, Deborah, because I'm curious, as we're storytellers, and when you're in a role as a journalist, you have a pathway. Is it the same when you're an author, or is it different in terms of your approach to writing this? And do you concern yourself with what will the audience get out of it when I'm the author as opposed to when I'm the journalist?
Well, I'm kind of a little bit of a control freak when I'm working on my stories, and I will drive my producers crazy because I feel like sometimes there's the essence of something. We have to make sure that's there. And often in television, and probably same for you in radio, you have to cut for time. And so that was very hard for me because when I was talking to these sisters, I was really trying to get at, you know, that human element. We all share so much of our humanity in common. And so I think as a journalist, that was at work. I mean, of course, the warmth and the emotion and sharing, but I also wanted to make sure there was real story, there was a reality there. I didn't want them to all be skippy, happy-go-lucky stories. I wanted there to be some real drama there, too, in terms of what people had gone through and how they had overcome. So maybe as a result of this book, people might explore their relationships. You might have a little more confidence that if you had some problems with your sister, that you might be able to overcome that problem, or it might be an opening for some conversations. So I was really mindful of that, of not only just telling the stories, but making sure each one maybe gave a little different something about life and sisterhood and what it's all about.
How happy are you with the finished product?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's my baby. I'm always correcting at the end. I'm always thinking, there was one more thing. I should have said this a little differently. Maybe I would have described it this way. I'm always like that. But first of all, I love the cover, which was done by this wonderful, beautiful artist by the name of, I'm going to her first name, Graham, last name Graham, and she did my first book for me, and she covered, and so I have to tell you all, I was driving everybody crazy because they had a lot of flowers on it, And while it's about sisters, I want men to pick it up too, maybe to learn about their sisters or just to enjoy it. Small little factoid, women tend to buy more books. So they really wanted to lean heavily into making it very light and airy and flowers. And I said, I need some southern flowers in here. So I want a dogwood, and I love, magnolias and so forth. So we went back and forth, and I think I drove her crazy, but she ultimately came up with something that I thought was beautiful. Nia Graham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the next book?
Oh, my gosh. I'm so exhausted. I don't know. We were talking earlier about I was in Macon last night, and I'm here, and I'm going to St. Louis next week, and Connecticut when I get back home after that. So the book tour can be something, but I don't know. People have come up to me and said, write about brothers, shed a little light on guys. I don't know. I don't know.
That's okay. It's in there somewhere.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I have a daughter getting married in May. I just want to survive the wedding. And then maybe in the summer, I can start thinking about what comes after that.
All right. Y'all ready for the questions and comments? All right. Now, look. Don't get up here and tell me about when you was 2 years old. And we got to wait till you're 34 to get the gist of the story. There's a lot of folks in there. It's a great space. We want to share, but let's just, in other words, let's keep it brief. All right.
And I have to tell you, Belinda, Rose talked about pressing hair at the very beginning, so you missed that one, and how we had a lot of that going on in the household.
All right.
But,
do we have a mic? How are we doing this?
There's a hand here and a hand there.
Okay.
And a hand.
All right. So let's start. Raise your hand. Oh, okay, over here. We'll go over here, and then we'll come over here.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to start by saying I'm from Perry, Georgia, so I love this.
Perry.
I'm so excited to see
Perry
you
in the
today.
house. Yes.
I am an only child, so it's beautiful to see all the sisterhood here. But I had the opportunity to go to Spelman College, where my classmates
You have a sisterhood.
My sisters.
You have a sisterhood.
So I wanted to get your insight and opinions on friendships that bloom into sisterhood versus just biological sisterhood.
And I think that is so important, and that has come up a lot when we've talked about this. I've had people say, well, I don't have a sister, I kind of wish I did, or I never just had the opportunity to have that kind of a connection. Obviously, I'm celebrating the biological sisterhood here, and in some cases we talk about a couple of people who are half-siblings, and the parents were really adamant about half-siblings and that connection. One sister who discovered somebody years later, and she didn't know she had a sister. But I think the theme of sisterhood really does transcend. Now, there has been a little bit of scientific evidence that having a sister actually boosts your mental well-being. Believe it or not, there has been some science that said, and I think there is something about having that intimacy, somebody in your life. Doesn't mean that all sisters are like, lockstep and see eye to eye, but there is something about that sisterhood connection. But I would also think that it may also be something that is present among sister friends. One of the contributors, Carol Radziwill, has sisters, but she said her chosen sisters, hi Patrick, her chosen sisters are more meaningful in her life. And she loves her sisters, but she's found something there in her chosen sisters. So I do think that that sisterhood energy exists even if you don't have a biological sister. In fact, some sisters have said, I'm more connected to this one than my actual blood sister. So I would like to think that you can gain something from this book, even if you don't actually have a sister in your life. It's also about relationships and building on those relationships and those connections and valuing those connections. And certainly, a sisterhood at a school. I was at an all-women's college in Macon, Wesleyan College, last night, and they were talking about the sisterhood bond. So I think it's alive and well, even if you're not biologically connected.
All right. Right here.
Hi, my name is Marcia Dorr, originally from Columbus, Georgia.
Oh,
I heard
my
that
first
in there
job
as
out of
well.
college. Hi.
And that was almost what I was going to ask, because not only am I not a sister, I'm the only girl with two brothers. So I guess my question is now more common because you just answered it. I'm just going to say I'm excited to read it, because when I saw Sisters Loved and Treasured, I didn't even think about biological sisters. I was thinking about my girlfriends. Yeah. And I had to grow into that because I was always really shy growing up and intimidated by women. So I think this is going to be a really amazing opportunity to see what that sister connection was like biologically, but also just continue to value the friends that I have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think there is something to be said for that, because I've had women who have said, well, I have brothers, and and I learned to be tough because of my brother, or things that happened in their relationships because they're brothers and not sisters. And I think that's a very valid point. And again, as I said, the relationships are all very different. Not all sisters see eye to eye. And interestingly, there are sisters, this is a totally sidebar, not related to that. There are sisters who, as they've gotten older, have built bigger bonds. Older parents, having to care for their parents. Or today, sisters politically who are not aligned. And that has caused some friction in households too. So there's a lot there to discuss that may not necessarily just pertain to biology, but just the human dynamic and relationships and how you might have a closeness at one point and maybe not so much later, or maybe you work on it and you have to work harder to try to preserve a relationship, and that also goes beyond just a sisterhood in a family. There's a lady right here in the middle. And then there's somebody here right in the middle, too.
Look at you directing.
Oh, sorry. I'm so controlling. But you don't think so, Belinda, right? You don't think so. No.
Okay, where are we going?
Way up there.
Good evening, Ms. Roberts.
Hello, how are you? Oh, there you are. Hi.
I'm an only child, like other people here have expressed. And I had two great parents. My father was an educator and football coach, so he was busy. My mother was an educator and school principal, but she taught me how to ride a bike.
She taught you how to what?
Ride a bike.
Uh-huh.
You know, we would go riding first when I was on a 5-speed, then a 10-speed. My mother was an assistant coach of my Little League baseball group, and the impact she had on my life.
Right.
It gave me a respect for not only women, but especially in the workplace, to be supportive of women in leadership positions, because she was in one, but she was out there, she was like a mother and a sister. Do you think that men can experience, who don't have sisters, sort of a sisterhood if they have an active and involved and loving mother?
I didn't hear the last part. Do I think men?
Do you think men who don't have sisters can experience a sort of sisterhood from an active and involved and loving mother?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I mean, there are a lot of men, I think, who do see the world a little differently because they did have that female energy in their lives. By the way, my co-anchor, David Muir, said he wanted to be an honorary sister to me and my sisters because he was so taken by them and the book. I will say, and this is totally just my thinking and not, and I may get in trouble for this, but, I said to somebody, there are so many stories that have been written about women, Little Women, and remember Sister was on television about twins and that connection back in the years. And there have been so many explorations of women in that relationship. But then men, you think Cain and Abel. There just don't seem to be the same kinds of connections. I mean, my husband is a prime example of when we're talking about something, and as women, I don't know, not everybody, but a lot of women, we want to talk about something over and we want to talk about it a little more, and that situation happened and I'm still talking about, and later my husband was like, are we still talking about this? I thought that was over. I said, yeah, but I had some new thoughts about it. I thought maybe if we did it this way, yeah, but we settled that. So I do think that women in our, intimacy of just connections, we like to talk, we like to share, generally speaking, and I think men don't necessarily like to do that as much, which might get in the way of men having the same connections. I mean, they connect, don't get me wrong, in different ways. But I think that connection is just not as intimate as with women. However, having a mom who's right there, and it may foster that in some men that might be a little bit different than you might normally get. So that's just my observation. I don't know that necessarily is true, but there is something that is a little different with women and the sisterhood than with men. That has been scientifically sort of, or at least there's been a little research that's shed a little light on it.
And fellas, it's okay to share your emotions now.
Exactly.
I mean, y'all can let loose. Another question over here.
Okay, great. One, thank you for your time in writing about this. I have 5 sisters as well, so
right.
I know what it feels like with one bathroom, and my poor brother, I don't know how he ever took showers.
Yeah.
But I have a question about your oldest sister, because the difference of I'm 2 of 6. I'm number 2. She doesn't have an oldest sister. So all of us had that older person
Yes.
to lean towards.
Yes.
Did you feel like she was more vulnerable, or she felt like she was more of like that parent or that second
My
mom?
older sister?
Yes, your
You know,
older
it's
sister.
very interesting, and I heard this in other families as well. And that was also gratifying for me because over the years, I always sort of felt, you know, maybe we were unique or a little strange because I did have such a big family and a sister who was so much older than my youngest sister. And my oldest sister, Annette, who has since passed away, used to say that Belinda was like her baby. That was her baby doll. I heard that from a lot of sisters, that I was almost like not a parent, but a parent figure. I saw her differently. But Belinda also revealed something to me that was so, I think, informative. It was that in some ways, she felt that she missed out on some of the things that we had because she didn't have the sisters at home. My sisters, Benny and Janet, were in the kitchen and singing, and they sang in church, and they would make cakes and just all of the things that happened in the household. She doesn't really remember that in the same way because she didn't have everybody in the house at the same time because you cycle out, people are getting married and going off to college, and she was the last one in the home. And so her memories are a little different from mine. And as I was saying to Rose earlier, no two siblings really have the same upbringing, even if you grew up in the same house. Your parents might have been going through different things at the time. You know, they may have been more patient, less patient, something traumatic might have gone on. So all of our experiences are different, and I think we don't appreciate that when we're younger. And when you're older, sometimes you do recognize, my sister had a different experience or saw something different than I did. And hopefully, maybe there's a little more compassion now that you realize what she went through. I was really surprised at the number of, I don't want to say older, because I think if you're in your 50s and 60s, you're still young and mature and all of that. But a number of women who are in their 50s and 60s talked about, you know, they're growing up in the 70s and 80s. A number of them talked about moms who were going through what we now know to be postpartum depression, issues with their mother who either something went on, and there was a pattern of that, and we wouldn't have known what to make of that when we were growing up. Now we do, and that colored a lot of these relationships and how the sisters connected. So I think understanding that, going back, and also looking now through different eyes really changes how we view our relationship and might even connect you a little bit more.
There's a 23, 24-year difference between my youngest sister, Tammy, and my oldest sister, Helen.
Wow.
And Helen
Wow.
still boss us around. and we still listen.
And you still listen.
Is this the way it's supposed to be?
I
Next
like
question.
that.
All right.
Hello.
Oh, okay. How you doing, Ms. Scott? Thank you for this evening, and
Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
And the
or seeing
bold
you,
guy
Ms.
who
Roberts.
got up to say something too, so
Yeah,
thank you. The second guy,
kinda
thank
felt
you.
it when you said, "Come on, fellas, it's okay to show your emotions," because I came here with some emotion, and I want to be intentional on exactly what I wanted to ask you word by word, Ms. Roberts, since I
Okay.
have you in my presence.
Okay.
Um,
I'm nervous.
I want to say, I am a little nervous. I want to say thank you for the beautiful work you've done highlighting humanity, resilience, and the power of relationships, especially the way you honored Tina Turner's stories over the years.
Oh.
With such care and depth, your voice and presence in journalism has always carried a sense of dignity and truly resonates. Your book, Sisters, Loved and Treasured, feels so aligned with the same spirit of celebrating strength and connection. I love to ask, as a Tina Titan, what was it like meeting Tina, and was there anything about her that surprised you or stayed with you personally?
Tina Turner? Did I meet Tina Turner? Did I do a story on Tina Turner? I have
You
to
did
tell
a
you,
few
there are
stories.
times when I forget who I interviewed.
Oh.
But I don't know how I could forget Tina Turner.
Well, I have the picture.
You-
And you were so stoked. You were like,
You have a picture?
yeah.
Oh, my God. You know, when Bob Barker, remember The Price is Right, passed away, some of my producers reached out and said, well, you know, you interviewed him years ago, so we want to do, I said, I never interviewed Bob Barker. And they said, yeah, you did. And they showed me a picture, I interviewed Bob Barker. So Tina, maybe at some point long time ago, I don't know, maybe she was going on tour and I might have, but I think I might have remembered that.
Yeah, it looks like it may have been at in South Africa at the. Were you in attendance of Oprah's school in South Africa?
Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't interview her. I met her.
You met her, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's what I'm
met
saying.
her.
You met
Oh,
her.
okay. Woo!
Yeah.
I was like, how could I forget interviewing Tina Turner?
No
No,
interview.
I met her.
Yeah.
There was a photo of us because I had a chance to connect with her
Yeah.
and to meet her. And that was actually very, very lovely. But
You
no,
went
I
way
didn't.
back, bro.
I
Yeah.
know. I couldn't even remember. But I didn't get to interview her, but just a chance to bask in her glow and to get a chance to see what a beautiful spirit and personality she was. But no interview, unfortunately.
Did anything stick with you personally from that meeting?
Just that she was dynamic, you know, beautiful, dynamic, kind, gentle, warm, you know, all of those things that you might hope she would be.
I got a better Tina Turner story.
Uh-oh. Go ahead. It is probably true.
My father, Joseph Lindsay, he's an ancestor now, played with Ike and Tina Turner in St. Louis.
Wow.
Can you say that, Deborah?
Okay, I cannot say that. I barely met Tina, so no, I cannot say that.
Now, I wasn't nowhere in the
And I
picture.
forgot that I met
but I
Tina, so
love the
thank
story,
you for
yeah.
jogging my memory. Yes, that's very cool, though.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Last question? I hear.
I want to thank you for being here also and compliment you on your presence. In a situation like this, I wonder if you prefer to write or to be expressive in this setting.
In this kind of setting. Thank you so much very much for coming. And thank you all for spending a Friday night, by the way, with us. That's pretty cool. Because I know you probably have a lot of other demands on your time. Belinda reminded me, and again, sometimes you forget these little things when you're growing up. She said, I remember you used to stand in front of the bathroom mirror holding your brush, pretending you were interviewing somebody on your show. I didn't even remember that. So I think that I have always innately, even when I was shy, and I was very shy when I was growing up and had to find my voice, and in a family with that many kids, took a while. But once I did, I think I knew that I wanted to do something in the way of presentations and on camera. I do like writing and I do like presenting and doing these kinds of stories in a book or reporting. But I think I do like the connection. I like the interaction. So when I'm sitting across from somebody to do an interview, there is something challenging, sometimes terrifying if I'm in a prison and sitting across from an inmate, or if I'm doing an interview with a celebrity. Of course, it can be challenging and difficult to sort of figure out my presence and what I want to communicate, but there is something about communicating and touching people and getting at the heart of humanity that I really do enjoy. And so, but when you have a skilled interviewer like you do here, I mean, it's a little bit easier to do, so.
Which I'm glad I get the last question because I'm curious, Deborah, how are you disconnecting? Because there's a lot that we cover right now.
Yeah,
And we have emotions too as journalists. And
yeah.
how
In
do
the
you-
world.
Yeah, how do you disconnect?
I am trying, I'm not really successful at it at the moment, but a little bit here and there. I'm trying to put my phone down more. I'm trying not to go for the phone first thing in the morning, but I do. I look at the time and then all of a sudden there's a message. And I'm trying more and more on the weekends not to get so bogged down because, now 24/7. And it is interesting in our industry because when you and I were first starting off, and you're a little younger than I am, but, you had the 3 main networks. And of course, before we had smartphones, you had to rely on the evening news and the local news before you sort of knew what was happening. Now it's 24/7. It's a barrage and the headlines and certainly what's coming out of Washington, and it hits you all day and every day, and it is exhausting. So I am trying to protect myself emotionally by sometimes not necessarily completely unplugging, but picking and choosing. Like, I don't do Wi-Fi on the plane. My husband loves to be connected, always wants to be plugged in. I don't do Wi-Fi really on the plane. Half the time I can't figure out how to get my Wi-Fi on, but I'm technically challenged. But I feel like, especially if I'm flying someplace far, like Los Angeles or maybe even St. Louis from New York, it's like, this is a good 2 hours that I don't have anybody bothering me or telling me anything. So I try to look for moments, even on the weekends, where maybe I'm not paying as much attention to the news, even being in the news business. We got to. We have to take care of ourselves.
I just listen to NWA.
Watch watch the Olympics.
And
just
Nina
find
Simone.
something, yes. Find something.
Depends on my mood, yes.
Something that brings you a little joy, which is what I really try to do on my social media pages. I try to put something out there that just brings you a little lightness for a moment, because can't we all use it?
And this book is a great way to just kind of be absorbed into something else. And if you have sisters, and there were 6 sisters, six of us, 4 boys. I've lost one.
You beat me. Wow.
Yeah, so it's a great way. I'm going to give each a copy for everyone in
Yes.
my family.
All right.
And I'm going
Few
to pay
more
for
books.
it. Y'all getting a free copy.
Oh, but you can buy some more if you want.
I'm going to buy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah Roberts.
Oh
It's been
my
a
gosh,
pleasure.
it was a pleasure. Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you all. That was fabulous.